All right, recording. Office hours. This is 9. We did 8. Hey, can we do 2? Tim, everyone put 2 up on our team. Ben, will you put 1? Oh, well, now we got 1. Let's try to get to number 9.
There you go.
Okay, there we go. There we go. 9. Office hours number 9. This has been a ton of fun. Every week we get together 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We jam. Justin is a lover of jam. Sometimes it's just our team. Other times we have wonderful guests, and today we have 2 wonderful guests. One of them being Justin Finkelstein. I said legendary walk and talker, and all around smart guy, genius, good person, and also Benjamin from Nonfiction Research. And very happy to have him here. You've got a lot going on in your life. Your family's expanding, Ben, and so we know your time is valuable, and you still came. You're still here.
I'm awake at all hours these days. We added a third. We have 3 boys. We added our third a couple weeks ago, but easing back into the work world. And I don't know. This is a fun call.
Good.
This is an over call, so I'm excited about this one.
I'm glad to see that you don't actually look like you're too tired. You look happy
Well,
still.
it's this, right?
Okay.
This time today, this is artificial. I'm artificially popped up here. But.
Okay, that's okay. We'll get you through. We'll pump you through. Ben's gonna hang around for 30 minutes here, and then he can. I'm doubting you're having a nap after that, but hopefully, yeah. We are, first of all, huge fans of nonfiction. We were originally introduced by Justin. Justin, I'm not sure if you want to add any context to how this all came together.
I'd be happy to. Do it as quickly as possible as Justin can do. Yeah. I met Tyler around end of February last year through, I think, a LinkedIn comment, and we were just into the DMs and started speaking late and decided to move our relationship to having live Zooms. Met Ben. Ben came to one of our jam sessions year, and then it was just really passionate people. Teams and people that I just really like being around, and neither of you can seem to shake me. And then we did a jam session in November where you got introduced, and we've just been off to the races and just figuring out exciting ways for the groups to partner, and been pretty successful at it so far.
Beautiful. And Ben, not to put you on the spot, I know you're, very good at talking about what you do, and you're doing some great work. So maybe just a little bit about nonfiction and just you personally, would love to hear.
And let me say, I knew I was going to be buddies with Justin about 45 minutes after meeting him, because we went through this like very, it's like is at City. There's people from City there. We're like doing like the business thing. That ends within 30 seconds. Justin figured out that I was from outside Philly. We're talking about ECW, which is the like fledgling wrestling promotion that got famous outside of Philly. So we're talking about like hardcore 90s wrestling about 45 minutes after meeting him. So that's the Justin magic, right?
Yep.
That time to that thing. So Nonfiction Research is sort of an unusual research company, which you don't hear a lot. People don't normally form unusual research companies. They form unusual anything else, right? But our whole approach is to just get below what you see in a lot of research, which is surface level kind of things, right? They're asking people about, the same kind of things about their lives that you see in every research report. It doesn't really dig beneath the surface. It doesn't get at the real decision-making behind the thing. So everything we do, we're looking to get below that level. So like we did a Secret Financial Lives report, which I think most of you have probably read, but it's not really about banks. It's about money and people's relationships with money and how that goes wrong, and how banks could be something to help it go better. And so in that report, we're talking to convicted bank robbers to ask them how they would remake the financial services industry. But that's a good flavor of what we do, right? Everything we do is we're going below the surface to try to get at that real human truth, the emotional part of living your life. And we do it for some of the biggest companies in the world. And then we also put out our own reports on topics that we care about. So that's it. That's the whole business. We wanted to keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah. I love that you, on your current website, you talk about how you'll risk your mental health for your, for your clients and for everything that you do. And I just think that's such a beautiful thing. I would be interested to know, there is this breakdown of the research reports that you're generating, and then also the ones that you're doing for client engagements and customer engagement. So what is the breakdown? And then when you talk about also being unusual, what are the challenges of communicating that to some of the customers that you're working with or that you hope to work with?
Yeah. So the good thing about the clients that we work with is a lot of times they're opting in before we go find them, right? They're coming to us and saying, hey, I read this thing. I really like Secret Financial Lives or whatever it is, the playlist report or the intimacy report. Can you do that for blank for whatever their category is. And a lot of times there is that like transferability. We can take the approach and apply it to something they're working on, because nothing is really about the actual category, right? It's not about banking. It's about money and self-worth. It's not really about CPG products. It's about like feeding your kids and how you like express love to them, right? So everything kind of gets elevated up. And so I think the clients that opt in, at least now, maybe not in the beginning, people were talking to us now like, what the hell is this? What are you doing? But by now, we've been around long enough. We just started our 4th year, which is kind of crazy to even say that. But by now, people have read the stuff. They know what they're getting into, I think, when they come to us. And so that's kind of helped, like being really forthright with how we do research. It's helped us attract people who are like us and who want to do the research the way we do it. And so it's been this little bit of like a flywheel effect for us.
Beautiful. You guys, anyone could jump in here, but I'm just curiously question also, and I know a bit of this, but still the context of you said, someone reads Secret Life, Financial Life of Americans, and then they come to you and they actually want to create an engagement. We say, wow, we really love the work that you've done, this research. Right. What does that process then look like for you actually engaging, doing the research, and then delivering that, and then also the outcomes that comes, like, why is this so valuable for the customers that you're working with?
Yeah, happy to talk about that. So, we always anchor on that question. We literally call it a burning question, and it's a litmus test to work with us, right? It has to be a question that you don't know the answer to. You have to admit that. And not every organization is ready to admit that they don't know the answers to some really important questions, but the ones that are get the benefit of answering them with us. And it is sort of a collaborative thing. So that's one, you have to have that question that you don't know the answer to. And if you had the answer, you would be able to do something with it. That's part 2. We're not in the business of like answering questions so they can sit on the shelf somewhere and collect dust with the other research reports you've commissioned. We want it to turn into something. Like whether it's a client report or even our public ones, like people will say, we'll get emails from banks that are like, hey, is it okay if we do the thing that you guys talked about in this report? Like, please, that's why it's free. And on our website, we're begging you to go do something with it, to take that knowledge and turn it into like real products. That's not what we do, right? We're a research team. We stop after research and we rely on other groups to pick it up. And then once we align on that question, it's really easy. We then, Gunny and I, Gunny's my co-founder, we've worked together for about 10 years now, and the whole team that we have of brilliant researchers and strategists, we come at it with a pretty agnostic approach. We think like, all right, what's the thing you would do if you wanted to answer this question? And sometimes that's a survey, and other times that's one-on-one interviews. Sometimes it's immersion, but we don't limit it to that, right? We could run experiments. We could be in people's homes. Gunny was unchaperoned in a prison. Like, we're reading, our reports have like, you'll see like a Drake quote next to de Tocqueville. Like, we really don't care where the answer comes from. And that gives us a lot of freedom and flexibility to kind of like go anywhere we want to go, right? And then typically over like 8 to 12 weeks, we are solving that question in any way we can imagine, you're right, just trying to get to the answer. And then we come back with what often looks like a standard research report, but it's beautiful. I think that's a big difference. I think it gets attention in a way that your typical like graphs and charts kind of thing doesn't. And it, I hope, gets at like the real heart of the issue instead of just reiterating what people know about the category. And then we try to stick around and make sure that the client is happy and is able to implement the things that we're finding in an interesting way. And that it's changing a little bit, right? So there's been more video work that we've done in the last couple months than we've ever done before. We're always experimenting with new mediums, and our clients are normally pretty innovative when that in that frame of mind. And from our standpoint, we like nothing's off the table. So I'm dying to do an oral history as a readout. I think we're going to do a comic book at some point. Like, I don't care what it looks like or what it is, as long as it answers the question in the right way. So we are totally open when it comes to that point. I don't know if that answers it, but that's kind of our approach. And it's fun, right? When you get to do that, it's a little bit more fun. And I think we don't feel like we're working jobs. Like, we feel like we're like solving little puzzles with our other weird friends, which is probably why I love you guys so much.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Good
Two,
brand.
two things stuck out to me there. The one is I would love to hear a little bit more on the immersion part.
Yeah.
And then the other one is you mentioned the shift, part of it being to video. I'd be interested in what that looks like. Are you talking about delivering the reports and part of that is through video? Yeah, I would love those two things. Really stuck out to me.
I'll go in reverse. So video is, we're doing them mostly as recontacts. So we'll do interviews with people and we get what we need out of them, and also build that intimacy. A lot of times we've spoken with them 3 or 4 or 5 times by the time we get to the video. And then the video typically is an expression of the thing that we've talked about. So we tell them, we ask them to go back and film a video doing a certain thing. There's some creative prompt that we come up with. And it's not meant to uncover new findings, but it's meant to see them in their element, in their habitat. And we do it both ways on purpose. Like the interviews, I don't know if everybody knows this or if you guys even know this, but we don't do interviews over video. We do no video. We do it over Zoom audio, and it's meant to create like this, like we call it like a church confessional environment, right?
Interesting.
You can't see the person, and you'd be surprised when it feels more like a telephone call, how people open up. So that's meant to be the intimate confessional kind of thing. And then for those who are interested, oftentimes we'll have them go back with a different prompt, but then you see it, right? Then you have the initial storytelling from them, but now you're like seeing their lives. You're seeing the dirty laundry piles. Like we had people do these videos of their lives, and we didn't specify where they should do it, but they're just living their lives. So guess what? One guy's in his car. One guy's outside the daycare picking up his kid, and he's like sneaking it in, right? He's making money. He's making $75, right? And that's when he has time to do it. And it's just it's great to get both. You get the intimacy, but then you get the texture. The first question you asked now is eluding me. What was the first one?
Immersion. I want to know about the immersion.
So immersion part now, our immersive practice has been down 100% in the last year. I'm making up that stat, but you get it. It was core to what we did. It's going to become core again, and we found ways around that during COVID. But we really go to where our people are. So like we studied teachers for Disney, for a project we did with Disney around. They have like a whole program that just brings students on field trips into Disney for educational experiences. It's like only Disney could do it, right? You're in a physics class, they take you to Space Mountain and they turn on the lights and they start showing you the formulas, and only Disney, right? Nobody else doing that. But when we did that project, like Gunny's on like the back roads of Georgia with these teachers. He's in teacher lunchrooms. The teachers are talking about how hard the parents are to work with. Gunny's like, show me the form. Show me the field trip form. And he's seeing the forms. Like, no, I don't care how good you are at interviewing or writing surveys or whatever. There's no substitute for Gunny being in the teacher lunchroom with like a box of donuts and going through the forms. And you can't replicate that. And that's what I think is part of the magic of what we bring. Is like we're willing to put in the work. We send Gunny anywhere.
Gunny does. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just picture him on a school bus.
Yeah, I have too many kids. I can't go. But Gunny will go anywhere. God bless him. And the rest of our team will too. And it makes the difference, right? You can feel it in the research. It's a totally different kind of thing. And it doesn't cost a lot of time, doesn't cost a lot of money, but the benefit is like off the charts. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, feel encouraged to jump in, anyone. One thing I said, and one thing I've loved you so much, Ben, and just the whole team at Nonfiction is just like, you can feel the passion for your work when you speak. Like, even with, now 3 kids, sleepy, doing it just comes right through. And I'm sure that that's just a huge driver for the success of your business and why you guys, continue to grow.
We love this. It's how we hire too, right? You have to want to be here. So you guys have all worked with people who didn't really want to be there.
Yep.
Sucks.
Yeah, it does.
You can tell.
Yeah. Well, and there's now a little bit more of the selfish part that I'm interested in exploring a bit more. But one of the things that obviously you mentioned here is this: you're doing a ton of interviews, and a lot of those comes down to interviews, maybe 30 minutes, maybe an hour and a half, depending on how talkative this person is and if the time is worth it. And then I know you don't like dealing with it, but it ends up coming in audio files, and then those files are transcribed, and then there's some analysis that's being done. So without revealing any nonfiction secrets about how they do it, I'm trying to understand. Like, what we're trying to understand is great. Transcription for what we see is something that is commodified. There's tons of providers out there. As long as you can deliver a high quality transcript, that's a service that's valuable, but not necessarily pushing on to that next level. And so what we're trying to figure out here, and what we've been talking to you about, is what is beyond the transcription. Once the transcription is delivered, once the audio file is all captured, like what does that process look like? We're trying to understand that more and figure out how we produce more value in that place.
So and we're thrilled to be working with you guys on this. And I think what you do with our transcripts, or what you do on top of transcripts, is different than what you get out of your competitors, or which we've worked with before, and they're fine and they do transcripts. You're right, it is commoditized. Everyone does transcripts. You can compare your dollar per minute price or whatever. But I think we're looking for something a little bit more. And I think about what you guys do, which is sort of, I think of it as the quantification of the qualitative part of our process. And we're thinking about how do we quantify the qual? And in general, we don't think about like quant and qual because we have surveys with long form open-ended, right? And you guys are quantifying this. So it's all jumbled up. But I do think about how to layer on some level of mathematics to better understand meaning behind what people are saying. So the more we can quantify the interviews, and the more we can dig at high level qualitative insights in the quant side, in the survey, like that's us doing our job, right? That's us living up to the promise of not being tied to any one tactic and being totally agnostic, right? I'm not saying something's has to stay in qual. I'm like, all right, let's throw it over to Speak and see what they can pull out of it. So a lot of times we're looking at those transcripts, one, just to go back and pull out some of the gems, some of the quotes. You might do a 45-minute interview and you're getting the shape of the story, which you need all 45 minutes, but you might land on 2 quotes in that whole interview, or 1 quote, but that it perfectly encapsulates the thing that you were trying to prove. A lot of times on our projects, I say that like, it's not really our, like, yes, we lay on our own thoughts, but it's our job to be the like conduit between the people and the brand that we're working with. It's our job to serve the end user customer, to serve the person in the right way. And so that means picking out the things from interviews that we think are going to be most powerful in getting an organization to act and understand what's really going on in these people's lives. So I think from like a quote pulling standpoint, that's a big one. But the other one is just like, what themes keep coming up? Like you might do, like we did something for a large pharmaceutical company, and we talked to, how many was it? Like 40 neurologists. And I did like the bulk of those interviews. I'm not a neurologist. You might be able to sell. And being able to go through an aggregate of those transcripts is something, what am I going to do? Listen back to 40 hours of audio? There's no way. So you guys take that 40 hours and you shrink it down into what I would have learned if I had sat there and listened to 40 hours of audio and took copious notes and then drew, the Charlie meme from Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah, all over the wall.
That's me, exactly. Right? I got the strings, the push.
Yeah.
You guys are doing that for me, right? Instead of me sitting there and drawing my things and my strings all over like a crazy person, you guys are doing those. You guys are the strings. And you come back and you just saved me 40 hours and a lot of headache, because you were able to draw the connections between the different things across 40 interviews. It's just the volume, right? So how do you bring that volume down? How do you make that volume digestible? And how do you turn it into something useful for us? And I think we're at the beginning of understanding your power to do that, right? I think we're in like inning 1 or 2 in understanding all the ways we can layer your stuff onto ours, right? We've never even done it for open-ended responses and survey, right? We've never done that. We could do that. What would that look like? So anyway, all that to say, big benefit of transcripts, and I think we're early days in terms of the power of doing those well.
Yeah. No, I just one thing that stuck out to me throughout my career is something that you touched on really nicely there, which is like, people want the information, but too much information is overwhelming. And so for you, if you just dumped all that, like the amount of human effort to take the process is just ridiculous. And so trying to figure that out, and even voice is so rich. Transcripts are so rich with information. How do you make these decisions on what is truly valuable? What do you display back to you, back to the client who gets the final report? What a challenge and interesting thing that's actually being taken place there. I'm done. I'm sorry. I drilled you with questions, Ben.
It's both things though, right? It's like the words that they're saying, but it's also the tonality. And I know you guys try to like infer tone through the words, but I just think there's so much richness there. I saw a platform, Justin sent it to me, that actually is doing surveys via voice responses. So you're getting the answers in voice. And I'm talking to them on Tuesday. What are they, Justin? Voice form? Something like
Justin's
that?
on mute. Let's go on.
I think it's voice form.
Like I think, all of these things are kind of triangulating. I know you guys are friends with the Yak guys as well.
Of course, yeah.
And you start looking at like, okay, Yak plus speak plus voice form, you start like triangulating. And what's the commonality? I mean, one is like agile companies who are building new shit all the time, but the other thing is voice. And I think we're going to see a huge revolution around voice technology. And we're going to use it. We're going to use it a ton at Nonfiction. We already have.
I'll just add, there's a very interesting pad that came public today from Spotify that's doing speech analytics on emotion and tone to actually basically recommend and generate the next song for you as well. So there's going to be a lot more technology applied as this analysis increases and the capacity continues. So very interesting stuff, very interesting sort of macro trend that we're seeing in the world in general. Justin, you're on mute. What do you have to say, friend?
I was just going to confirm, just give a little bit of a plug for another Toronto company. So I got a cold DM from somebody at VoiceForm yesterday as a podcaster. They want to create it as like how do podcast hosts interact with their audience, and like we always do, took in a completely different direction. So I think they're going to have a beta available as early as next week, and it's just not my business to say when their beta is going to be available.
What's going on in Toronto? What do you guys have that's going on in the water? It seems like every other company I see that I like these days is from Toronto, and I just don't know what's going on up there. Maybe you guys aren't distracted by the news the way we are down here.
Well, so Vatzel and I actually moved to Toronto right before the pandemic. So we saw the magic and the beauty of Toronto pre-pandemic. We believe it will restore, and that's why we're still here in Toronto. But there isn't a prosperous tech community in the city, and just attracts really high talent. I know there's lots of changes happening in the world right now, and there's people who are leaving cities to go outside and buy single families with homes, but there's a lot of people who I think are really connected to the tech community and want to network, and that speed of innovation, the speed of communication that you can have with some of these teams is technically advanced, but also conceptually advanced, just living in Toronto. And it's a pretty incredible place to be. So I can't say exact, but there's a lot of people, a lot of tech. I'm not sure if you have anything to add there. It's a great place to be, and voice technology specifically has a big footprint in Canada and Toronto.
Yeah, specifically, I would say the voice technology is like I'm part of. I think we talked before, but it's like part of the Voice Tech Global, which is like the global voice community in Toronto. And it's like you can feel and see that energy if you are into that room. It's like how much people are involved with the technology, and that technology is one part, but the innovation with the technology is the whole new era. What we see, I think, so in Toronto, specifically on the engineering side, that's incredible.
Yeah, we have some weird pushes too. Like, not weird, they're good. Like neurotech, there's a big neurotech community in Toronto. Several big like accelerator programs, and some pretty world-renowned places in terms of where do you take your company, specifically if you're in Canada. But for example, Creative Destruction Lab, there's all over the world. They'll fly in to come to the Creative Destruction Lab, and some incredible people there too. So yeah, very interesting place to be, and we hope to see it restore soon to the former glory with the meetups and the networking events and everything. They were amazing things. You'd go to a place on a Friday night thinking that there'd be like 10 people there, and you go and there's like 100 people who are just trying to upskill on a Friday night in Toronto. And like, that's when you know you're in the right place.
Well, Joe just sent you some vaccines, I think. He sent you a couple vaccines.
Appreciate that, Joe. Yeah.
None of you look like you would qualify, but that's okay.
That's okay. We'll do our best. And Ben, we know you've only got a couple minutes left. Justin, I don't know if you're hanging around after, or you're hopping off at 12:30.
I can hang out for about 5 minutes to 12:35. So
cool.
I can do about the same. Yeah.
Ben, any last things that you want to, last things that you want to talk about specifically, anything that you wanted to share while we're all gathered here today?
Yeah, I almost hesitate to share this one because we're gonna kind of see how this one goes. A lot of our reports, there's nothing to disagree with really, right? We're like, all right, banks should help people make more money, not just wait for people to have more money. And everyone's like, yeah, it seems reasonable. But we're doing a report that comes out next week. There's like a little teaser video at a URL called, the URL is Saving Americans from the News. And we're launching a new report, and it's probably, I didn't think it was a controversial topic, but in some beta testing around some like paid tweets we did, I'm curious to see how this one shakes out. So anyway, that's our new report. I would be remiss if I did not plug it, but I do it with a slight bit of hesitation because I'm waiting for the storm of people not liking what we're trying to say for whatever reason. So anyway, you take a look.
Hey, good luck, my friend. Oh, we'll include the link, and I guess there's that idea of all press is good press, but we'll monitor that. We'll monitor that.
I thought we took down everybody, but I think sometimes when you take down everybody, then people are mad that you didn't just take down one group. But we'll see if that holds or if that plays out. But I think it's a really interesting look at how news, journalism, media, whatever you want to call it, how that's devolved over the last few years and sort of what it's done to our lives, right? Like we have stats in there around percentages of Americans who have sent an article to someone of another political view just to agitate them, right? And it's like, that's not nice. That's not good human behavior. But it's like, it's over like 20% of Americans. Right. So you're like, all right, how many American adults are there? Oh, okay, 220 million. So we're talking about like 44 million people being like,
a lot of people. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you can
take a look at this. Like, it ruins your day. Like, but then you have to look at it from the other side too, which is if 44 million Americans, using that as like a baseline, are doing something, well, we should look at that and we should study that and try to understand what that thing is, whatever that phenomenon is. So on one hand, it's, like not good behavior, but it still deserves to be understood. So a lot of the report is trying to dig into that. Us, we're always trying to go after some really juicy topics. And then the one that came after that, I think you guys just got the transcripts on this one, or are about to, is hiring. So a little state of like corporate hiring, not gig economy stuff. We're going to save that for follow-up, but all the ways in which the hiring process is broken, which I think all of us have experienced at some point in our lives, but definitely with a nonfiction take, and then trying to rebuild what a better vision could be. So that's where we are.
Wow. Beautiful.
We're having fun, man.
Yeah, no, I can tell.
We're busy.
Yeah, seriously.
Clients coming, reports going. It's good.
I'm glad to hear it. Well, I guess, I know we're coming out of time. Tim, Vatzel, Lauren, any questions for Ben before he gets off?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to both the articles, and I don't know if you know the Scotiabank, it's in Canada, and they have the taglines like, you are richer than you think. That is their tagline. So it's like, motivate you to get richer. And it's like very interesting. I'm looking forward to that. And Ben, like, I just have one question. I know we met a couple of times, but I never got a chance to ask you that one, which is also on your website and also what you do. And you explain beautifully the whole process you do at Nonfiction. But there's a two terminologies you use, which is, research sprint. So the research sprint is basically what we follow also is like in general on the engineering side and all. So like how different you see in terms of the research sprints, very interesting is like stuck to my mind. It's like always wanted to ask you is like, because you say that that's 1 week to 2 week research time. It's like, how hard is that? It's like, what does that look like? It's pretty interesting.
It's hard. Yeah, we had to grow into the research sprint a little bit. We sell these full big studies, these like 8 to 12 week monsters for, that's what Goldman's buying, Marcus by Goldman. That's what Disney, Viacom, those guys are doing. But we had an early conversation with I think he's their chief strategy officer. He won't be mad because he's a nice guy if I get his title wrong, but I think he's CSO at Arts and Letters, a guy named Andy Grayson. And he was like, hey, agencies are never going to buy your 8 to 12 week studies. We don't have 8 to 12 weeks, so you won't have 8 to 12 weeks either. We're like, okay, aha. And so what we did was we designed a smaller version of the nonfiction process to go to those agencies. So we work now with the Martin Agency, which is down in Richmond. Their agency of the year this year. Organic BBDO, Campbell, Ewald. We've worked with a ton of them because of that little piece of advice, which was, hey, don't do less good research, right? Don't like take away parts of the process, but you need to be able to shrink it. And so the way we do that is we shrink the question. Instead of trying to solve like the state of the thing, we solve something here. You're still doing the interviews, you're still doing immersion if we can fit it, you're still doing quant, but we're just doing it on a smaller kind of question. So that's the way we've served that part of the market. And we didn't originally, right? We were losing projects left and right because we were coming in with 8 to 12 week timelines for an agency that had to go to pitch in 4 weeks. So we had to do some right sizing there, but that's where the sprint came from.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
You said earlier that
in a business, right? Where you're like, well, that didn't work. If we'd like to do this, we have to make a change. We have to, but that's also the beauty of being in a small company. You guys have the same thing, right? Yeah. Something's not working or could work better. You just, you just switch.
Switch and rapidly changes makes sense.
Yeah.
Lauren, you had to look excited.
Yeah, you said earlier, your biggest problem was just summarizing like way too much information, trying to bring it all together. I'm just wondering if that's the biggest problem you face, or if there's something that's really a bit more painful than that.
Oh, there's pain all over. But yeah, that's a lot of it is deluge of information is high on the list. Not retreading the same kind of stuff that's been out there or been found and trying to come at things with a new lens or some unique point of view. That's definitely one. And then maybe this isn't a problem with the research, but it happens after, which is like making sure that the research is used in the company and that it does turn into something where our hands kind of come off a little bit. And most of the time you see it turn into something, but I think, it's hard, right? Because it's your baby. That research project is your baby for 8 to 12 weeks, and you hand over like a new vision for something, and then sometimes like nothing happens with it because budgets get cut or the teams switch or whatever. So it's our job to keep making sure that we're making implementation as easy as possible. We've actually started tapping a consulting firm to kind of come in after us and drill it home, because we think it's just good for nonfiction ultimately to see our stuff in the wild more, right? So it's not like, oh, we did that great research and it's being used as an internal secret, super duper secret strategy document. We want to see it as like, oh, did you see the thing that Wells Fargo did? Yeah, that was from our research. That thing that you saw on the commercial or on their website, that was from us. And so that's a challenge, but continuing to work with it. So thank you guys for having me. This was a blast. I love listening to these, and this started with me just sending you a note, which is like, oh, I love these office hours. And I don't know, I just appreciate the time and the good questions, and
of course,
great partners to work with.
Yeah. Hey, well, we look forward to lots more. Have a good rest of your day. Have a good weekend. We look forward to connecting. Probably chat with you next week. Justin, you're a little bit more quiet than normal. I know we're asking Ben some questions. Ben, okay. You could get going. Just thank you again so much. Can you show the gold mic quickly before you? There we go. He said that's the only color you can get, but we're a little.
No one believes me. That was it. That's all they had. Amazon Prime, man. All right. Pleasure. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it. And I'll talk to everybody soon. Thanks for having me. Bye.
Justin.
I'm going to hang out for a couple more minutes. So.
Yeah. What are your thoughts after that?
Oh, so I always love to hear it. And I forgot the mic, the camera being off for the interview piece of it. I think that's really interesting to create that confessional. And I've been talking a lot about just, the cost of Zoom meetings and the cognitive load that comes into those. And that's why I'm so excited about the voice first stuff. So it's a great conversation.
Especially, when you get so many people on a screen at once, and you're trying to process and see everyone's having a good time while you're talking. Like, it's just a sort of overwhelming load to actually manage, especially as you as a moderator of conversations.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's a beauty with the audio now. Like, it's about giving an opportunity there is no video. So it's like, for example, the Clubhouse, the beauty is with the Clubhouse is like, and also other tools similar to the Clubhouse, like just the audio. So you can get a chance and you don't see any emotions on the faces. It's like sort of two sides of that thing,
Hmm.
but it's interesting, the audio and voice only options.
Yeah, there's a couple. I gotta bounce this. Is there a couple things I can plug that I'm just like hot topics real quick?
Definitely.
So, also just still in it. I know Tim's in it too. The implementing the art of impossible, which I think is the roadmap and the if-then statements for creating impossible results. So I'm excited about that. There's a new tool that I've been messing around with called talk.social. I think they're in alpha right now, but what they do, they're they create experiences for people to be able to build relationships very quickly. So, you know, I've been on a Clubhouse room called the unstuck.show for the last couple of days. I'm just going to plug into the next thing that I'm really excited about. And it's great. You get a lot of information, but it's tough to build relationships. So it's Talk Social is starting to solve that with some synchronous sessions to be able to build intimacy very quickly. The fourth thing that I'm really excited about right now is creator coins. Rally seems to be the leader in this space right now, rally.io. There's a particular coin. It's the AMA coin, the Ask Me Anything coin by a gentleman named Gregarious. And I've only seen his last name written, not spoken. So I think it's like Narain. So I'm going to say Narain, but I could be completely off. We had a conversation this morning. I'm going to be working with that coin, like one is investing in that coin and really starting to drive community. Because what's beautiful, I mean, it's much easier for the world to invest in a human being than in a company and everything that's involved with them. And I think there's something very special when I give some feedback to somebody and they come back to me with $20, which is exchangeable for, you know, that value, you know, in the coin. I will share something that is probably I shouldn't be sharing about the platform this morning. One of the coins went from $2 US to $500 US in about a period of 2 hours. I think that was probably a glitch and that wasn't the market driving that up. Rally's been down for a couple of hours. I have no idea what it's about. I probably shouldn't even be talking about it. I own 5 of those coins that I got for free. I exited 2 of those coins. I didn't exit into dollars. I exited into other Rally coin. But it's just a very interesting market to be able, you know, like I'm looking at each of these coins a little bit of startup. So I'm excited about that. Haven't had a lot of converts on it, but
you'll get there. You'll talk them down. Yeah,
I know exactly. So it is. So anyway, yeah. So check out rally.io. I'm Justin F on there, and then obviously excited about everything Speak. Love everything that you guys are doing. Love you as human beings, and love these office hours. I'll come and do a whole. It was tough for me to bite my tongue for the whole thing.
I know. I'm sure. I'm sorry.
But I could have taken it in a totally different direction. So I just thank you so much. I really do appreciate you all, and I'm glad that I was here on week 1 when Vatzel was a quantified self denier. I'm glad that he's come around and he's more a fan of quantified self. So you're welcome for that inside joke. That's probably wasn't even funny. So that's
it was. Thank you. Thank you, Justin.
That's for everybody else.
Yeah. Well, hey, we're getting some fans here who are watching episodes and giving us feedback. So we're grateful for them, and we're seeing the views actually start to. I mean, when I say views, like from 20 to 30, but those are real people, and we appreciate them very much. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a great thing to be a part of, and I said last week, but like one of the people that we just hired on the team. One of the reasons why he seemed so excited about it was because he watched several of the office hours. And it's like that same enthusiasm that you watch Ben when he's talking about the work, that comes through our office hours because we do care so much. And it was like, it's hard to not want to join a team that is so transparent and enthusiastic about that work. So those are peripheral benefits I didn't actually think about, but are coming to fruition. And that's really amazing.
It's huge. It's huge. I love what the stuff you guys are doing, and I'll come to another office hours the next couple of weeks and mix up a little bit more. So thanks you so Justin. Much.
Have a good week.
All right. Love you guys. Talk to you soon.
Timothy, you were quiet. I'm sorry. I saw a couple of times you wanted to talk. How are you feeling? How are you?
Well, actually, I wouldn't have done any better than Justin would. Meaning that it's fine. I just had an idea of a. You know, they mentioned a lot when he mentioned how they perform audio-driven interviews is and essentially reduce not only the load of processing the video, but they reduce the bias that Freud talked about a lot, and they tap into this sort of they ameliorate the problems that human nature poses in terms of openness and just talking your mind out. And if, you know, the way that you also do similar type of research is look into Google search analytics. You see what people are typing into Google search, and you see, you know, political events, and you can correlate it to particular jumps in searches, and this all really comes down to speech. And what I was hoping to mix in, or rather, I am doing it now, is that I actually wonder what are the privacy concerns would be around Neuralink as soon as we do use it to chat. Since you're going to be literally talking your mind out, while you can control your speech, maybe there might be, it's
Interesting.
That was a very interesting point, Timothy, because I was watching, actually, it's on YouTube, it's in Naval, yesterday's like Ask Any Question on the Clubhouse. And it was the question a person asked about, I think it's Sam, someone from CA, and it's like ask about the Neuralink and like the effect of the Neuralink, because he was starting his business into the sort of the Neuralink. It's like, it's like what stage I am in, it's like, what do you think as a Neuralink, what they are doing? And it's like Nawal's answer is always like very interesting. And what he responded is like, we don't know much about what they are doing yet in the Neuralink. It's like how far they are in terms of the scientific breakthrough and the philosophy. What he said, very interesting, stick to my mind, is like, this is not what at Neuralink they are doing. It is not more about the engineering. It is more about the philosophical and the scientific breakthrough. Unless until that's not done, it's too far. That can be done. What in his, just quoting his words, he said that can be done tomorrow, or it might take next 50 years to have those breakthrough, to have those Neuralinks playing a music in your mind, or sending a message from brain to brain. You know, I'm sending a message to Tyler right now. So that is more about the scientifically and psychologically breakthroughs than the engineering side. It's like we have no idea how far we are from that point.
You know, one thing though, I would say in the study of the impossible, very well researched, like by Stephen Kotler, Justin just talked about. From that standpoint, I can't agree with you. It's not impossible, and we actually do know when it's coming together. Something that we don't, in the sort of as a comparison, we do not know whether we will ever have AGI. That we don't know, because we simply don't have any, even, the processing power to simulate just your nerve in the retina takes up the supercomputer somewhere in Japan. Like that's we do not know that. But in the Neuralink, it's publicly available information that they don't develop much technology. They hire, the hires over there are taking the technology that's been around since 1960s and been utilized in terms of limb replacement. But that's in terms of adding the ability to essentially transmit the nervous signal wirelessly or otherwise for people with disabilities of different sorts. But that's for sure that there needs to be there will be needed scientific breakthroughs, but the tech was there for more than 60 years. So I would expect it to be around in 20 years. And as Elon just recently been posting, the cost will be within $3,000 of a eye laser surgery thing.
It is more about than like the financial cost, or on the tech sides, like what type of fund we might have in the future. But what I see is an opportunity we are going and heading in the directions, which like we might see the Neuralink startups is other than like what Neuralink is, like, into the neurotech basically. It's like might be 10, 15 companies working into the same directions, and they might have the breakthrough in the future. And we might open up a lot of space. But yeah, that is a very interesting field, and we might see a lot in the future, other than Neuralink, what they are doing with the tech and on the engineering side.
Lauren, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
What you
I
thinking?
guess.
Good. What do you think? Got a good question in at the end there.
Oh yeah. You kind of just reiterate what I would say. He wants to summarize and he wants to provide some level of value.
Yeah.
Not really sure about the whole AI stuff we're just talking about there.
I'll send a link. I'll send a link, and if you are really interested, I would encourage you to watch that one.
Yeah.
I'll definitely send a link. It's only 15 minutes, I would say.
There's two things that I thought were interesting. That was the original, I think that Tim brought up, which was, just communicating with just audio when you're not looking at someone's face versus actually seeing the face. And when you shut off the stimuli and input of voice or your sensitivity and your awareness of your own voice goes up, significantly.
When you close out like one sense, your other senses get heightened in a way.
Exactly.
So if we were all blindfolded right now, we'd be much more eloquent speakers, maybe.
Very, very possible.
That's a beauty. That's what's going on with this whole audio thing right now.
You can feel it on Clubhouse, like how much work people are putting into pronunciation and communicating. And I like, you always see me, I talk with my eyes closed. And part of that is that process. I can't, if I'm looking at you while I do it, I'm thinking too much and I'm processing too much information. So
it's like you're buffering.
Yeah, and then the other part, Tim, not to go too deep back into that, but like the thing that I'm questioning is like, so the Neuralink part with, movement of limbs and stuff, but the part that, is the very fascinating is when will you be able to, communicate messages and make that universal. So depending on your language, cultural understanding, how one brain signals a single word versus someone else's, and how long until we get systems that recognizes that across all languages and all people and brain types and sizes and everything. And then the other part is that a conscious, I've seen, work around it that it's a conscious thing. So you'd have to set like almost like an Amazon, like Alexa wake word that then actually triggers the actual communication so that it's not extracting subconscious or, just below subconscious processing of language. It's more conscious messages that you actually want to send.
That's a very deep question in terms of, we're utilizing language in the same way. Our brains are totally different, and to create a scan of just one brain will take us a while. To create two, it'll take us 2 whiles, and then it's although it's scalable, the translation part is
it's even more than that. It's like how much do you understand about the brain? It's like even your own brain, that the language doesn't matter because we dump an understanding of the language to the brain.
Yeah, exactly.
Brain was just an engine who like just the process everything, right? It's like we learn English, we learn whatever the Hindi, French, Japanese, Chinese, but it's like we train our brain. It's like how hard is that to even understand about this multiple languages? Is like how hard is that for you, for example, Tyler, to learn let's say French or Hindi fluently at this age with all your 6 sense?
There is a correlation of the ability to connect ideas together, and it's that graph, I keep forgetting the name, Siena graph, something. The graph when you take LSD and not. It essentially shows you how you can interconnect ideas, which sometimes are not even connected, but that's the ability to actually learn a new language and start branching out. It's like, you can know the word, but you don't know that word in a different context. And while some people are more able to talk in one context and indefinitely, like you, Tyler, can do, just fall into flow and forget about others. And it's okay, no complaint here. Just the part it's we have these areas of expertise and people develop it slightly differently. We can go deeply into one subject. We can be generalists, and we all know about that. But it's like it seems like the measure for this.
Well, and just even the languages shapes your understanding of the world and what you comprehend too. So I mean, we could get lost in this. I'll guess we'll bring this back because we have 9 minutes left. We had a great, awesome, guest with Ben here, and Justin. Justin, I know again is used to talking, so I felt his pain. But Ben also gave us wonderfully eloquent answers about the amazing work they do at Nonfiction, and we've seen some of the studies that they've put publicly. And then we've also done some work around the research projects that they're doing with customers and clients. And it really is a beautiful process. You listen to the interviewers on their team, they're so talented at what they actually do. Is there anything, I guess, any thoughts as we sort of, just process what we just heard from Ben? Anything that you're thinking? We're moving into our, some discussions on pricing. We're moving into discussions on a financial review, and then also setting goals up for the next quarter. And just wondering if you see any connections of that. Is there anything that we learned here today that can help guide us through these next couple of weeks as we try to have a really successful second quarter in 2021?
Yeah, that's a good idea for OKRs, is focusing more on like the output as far as like summarizing all the information that comes through. I really like that. Nowadays they have like the articles online, and it's like, this is a 5-minute read. Here's a quick little summary, like an abstract in a way. It'd be nice if there was some sort of way to do like an automatic abstract, and to like put into the system like what I want from this report, and then it goes and finds that and just throws that in the abstract for you.
Get the access to GPT-3.
Yeah, that's GPT-3, the OpenAI.
That's the aim.
Yeah. We'll get access to that, baby. See, I don't even, that unlocks a whole other can of worms. But
how do you get access to that?
There's a waiting list on it. It's been in our Trello cards for a while, so it'll come. But it opens up a whole can of worms, and really also I think could, depending on how we do that, could unfocus our whole team, and also get lost in the possibilities there. It's sort of a whole can of worms.
A lot of opportunity there, lots of a blank canvas where you can draw different pictures and can
Maybe about the mindset to go with to head into the new quarter is looking at their whole business model, which is literally knowing, going deep into the subject matter and being there in the field. We should apply that too. I mean, we have Leon. Oh, I shouldn't be talking about that probably, but UX research is something that we should perform ourselves or otherwise. That's something that go out there in the field, and besides us using the system, we definitely have users and have a very sort of literally sit behind their backs and see how the users speak.
Well, and the other part that's interesting, and I talked a little bit earlier this morning in our actual team meeting, was like this idea of like triggers and then like macro trends, right? And so what Ben talked about is immersive research is not being done right now, of course, because of the pandemic, but they plan to do it again. And the original vision of Speak, in a way, before the pandemic started, was actually to make sure that we had recording natively on your phones, so that if you were in an immersive environment like that or in outdoor meetings, that you still had an easy device for capturing, recording, and analyzing it with the meta details at that exact moment as well too. So as we start to see this emerge from what we're doing now, where we're on Zoom calls all the time, and those are the inputs, as the world does come back together, Zoom and they will still continue to be inputs, but there will be these other ones out in the real world, and Speak has a lot of potential and value as that actually takes place.
One thing stick to my mind is like what he talked about at last is like, okay, the research understanding about the user. And when Lauren, you asked about the challenges, the one point he pointed out about having understanding, making sure that they implement that in their that's advertisement or the company website or anything. The implementation of the research is more important. At the same time, also doing the research, the whole analysis done and the report generation and everything. That's a one part. But if it is not implemented, that's a pain. That is, make sure that that's supposed to get executed properly. It's like the same thing is like if we build something and okay, we do everything, but if it is not sort of executed or not implemented on the user's end, then there is a gap. There is a pain even
Yeah.
let's say, in terms of the learning. So we just have to make sure that if we think, if we decide, if we plan, if we implement, it's supposed to get executed at the end on the users end. It's like, it's not supposed to be on the Speak platform sitting somewhere under a tab or
Outcome
something.
versus
Like,
output,
Yeah.
sort of.
Well,
Yeah.
we've had that gap before. For example, this is maybe not directly related, but like people coming to the system, uploading it, and not realizing the transcript editor was available. So not seeing the
Yes.
full implementation of what was actually possible with the system.
Possible.
And I saw this with my own life when I was doing the Google ad grants for nonprofits. Plug in their system, $10,000 a month in advertising, send tons of traffic to their site, build this incredible report that showed everything that was happening, make recommendations, and just not having the capacity to implement the changes that were required. And how frustrating that was for myself. And so it really connected with me when Ben talked about that, of putting so much effort into something. And even, there is a gap though, right? Like if it's not implemented, it means that you didn't communicate it effectively enough. Like, I know there's always limitations within the organization, there's capacity issues, but if you truly hammer the point and deliver the information in the way that it needs to be, there will be no other choice but for the organization to make those changes, to do that implementation. So how can we help Ben with that delivery? And so maybe part of it, this is assuming now, but like is because some of it is so qualitative, that if we could get more quantitative analysis, that it's so data driven that they can't ignore it. Like, what are these things and what are these blockers from that implementation standpoint that we can actually help and solve that gap? Because that is a true pain, one that he's experiencing, their team's experiencing, other research teams are experiencing, and many people doing marketing or analytics or intelligent works are actually experiencing too.
Yep. And one thing he also pointed out about how Speak helps them to save like 40 hours instead of watching and listening the whole audio clip and figuring out the theme around in that bucket of the audio. It's like how we can improve in that direction. It's like give more insight around that theme. It's like, oh, they're talking about hiring, but in the hiring, they're talking about X, Y, and Z. So it's like how we can improve that to provide more insights.
Or maybe just giving them more like control over like organizing it too. Because like we take all their information, which comes to us in a big block, and then we break it down into like different blocks, like keywords, transcripts, all the different forms of information that is available in that one block. But then after that, they don't really have the ability to like just pull out and take exactly what they want. Like we provide them with like the buffet, but we don't provide them with like the plate to put all the stuff that they actually want on.
Interesting.
Spot on. Yep.
Food analogy. I love it. Wow. Didn't see that one coming.
Relationships between entities is something that we should look into this at least. Have an exploratory project at first, but having a network of interconnected ideas in relationship with time is something that what we're doing right now. Is Lauren, you're exactly correct. We're taking the bulk of media, generating bulk of insights, and outputting a bulk of them without any necessarily meaning making.
And we're also, besides the dashboard, we're also keeping the analysis. Like, one of the dreams that we've all had has been, how can we, one of the gaps that we saw was, companies processing files individually. But what we saw was this opportunity to process files on bulk, especially if, uploaded over time or different times of day. And so besides the dashboard and the deep search right now, we really don't have that much way to package up the analysis of multimedia files into summarizations. And, I just think of Ben's, example with nonfiction is like, if they ask, for example, consistent questions throughout those interviews, we now have a consistent data point that's then throughout, how can we look at that question over and over again and then group all the answers together and pick the themes or the keywords out of those answers specifically. That's truly saving work and time. We're not quite there yet. I know we can get there, and that stuff's in the pipeline, but you can hear, if we could save 40 hours already, how much could we save moving forward? And if we could save them 40 hours or say 60 hours per project, how many more projects can they do? How much growth can they have? How much value can they deliver for the people that they're working with?
There's a lot of potential and opportunities there to work in the directions to having that system.
It's the foundation is already there. That's the beautiful thing.
Exactly.
And one last part I'll add is like, he talked about that. I love this part where he mentioned that they had to do the condensed version of their engagements. So instead of doing 8 to 12 weeks, they're like, we don't have that much time. We need to do 2 to 4 weeks, or 6 weeks
Yep,
max.
sprints,
right? And I just
research sprints,
research
very
sprints.
interesting.
It's about the part that I also thought about is like, we have a new marketer onboarding, and maybe this
Marketing
connection,
sprints.
the connection was it's just marketing sprints, and then also choosing how can you make an impact in a short time. So when they have a shortened time frame, all of a sudden it really prioritizes the questions that they're asking, or the actual goal that they can have. And so hopefully this connection is making sense. But I just think of, for example, our UX person even coming in, 3 months engagement. By having that engagement, you put constraints on what you do, and then you really have to like maximize the choices that you make and the output and the actions that you make. So if you're trying to get results in marketing, SEO is sometimes difficult in 1 month or 2 months or 3 months. As you extend it, that you can make this long-term effort. But when you shorten that timeline to 2 weeks, it's like, how could I make this crazy impact in 2 weeks that actually helps with growth? And just very, very interesting concept. Like you said, software development, research development, and then the implementation of constraints in time and delivering value.
Because what I personally think is, like, when we think as a 1 week sprint, we used to do the 2 week sprint before, right? But what we converted in Q1 is like, let's do the 1 week sprint, because you start thinking, personally, I started thinking in just the whole different directions. It's like, okay, we want to achieve 10 things. Let's divide in 5, let's divide in 3. And you're just going to ask the different questions, how you can resolve quicker and also provide the value. It's not about just resolving the problem. It's also about providing the value at the same time. And it's like, that's very interesting point. I was like, if even in the marketing and the sales is like, oh, it's a 2 week sprint or 1 week sprint, what one thing you can do, it has so much value, can provide in a month. You can see that ripple effect in a month and 2. It's like, what only one thing, just focus, everything else is fine. It's like one thing can achieve in that 1 sprint. Yeah, the whole course is different now. The whole recipe is different. Creates a huge difference.
You talked about, I don't know if I'm sure you saw it, but the Collison brothers at Stripe talked about how many code changes they pushed in the year. And it was like 12 code pushes a day or something. Like it's insane. And to develop and iterate that speed, the other part that we talked about is the more iterations that you do, the quicker you learn.
Yep.
And in the end, that leads to greater success. So what a powerful concept of just shortening that down and the prioritization that it gives to you. Just beautiful thing. It's 104. I know we're tighter here for time because we had that. I hope people enjoy Ben coming on. I hope if you're watching this or listening that you enjoyed that. Ben is an expert at what he does and didn't talk too much about his past, but has, I believe, exited from companies twice doing what he's doing. And Gunny, his partner, was one of the head people at Vice, which is a massive organization, which was sort of changed how we viewed media and news and research and journalism. So it's an amazing team that they actually have there. And the fact that he gave 30 minutes while he is so busy and doing all this was really nice. I hope he didn't feel like he just came and we just drilled him with questions. I know maybe we could have had a little bit more of a conversational tone, but I for anyone interested in this stuff, he made some amazing, interesting points that I hope resonated with people who watch. Anything else before we wrap this up? It's a beautiful sunny day here. Any else that you guys want to talk before we wrap up? Office hours number 9.
That was great. Talking with Ben and Justin, it's always an honor to have on Speak AI Office Hours. So looking forward to more with the guest on Speak AI Office Hours, talk about the problems and how Speak AI can help them to resolve those solution problems.
Timothy.
Yeah, I think it's been more than enough. I feel like this one office hour has had more content than all office hours combined, so I'm pretty satisfied.
Okay, good. I'd like to hear that. Timothy, good?
My mind wanders a little, but building technology is like building planes. Planes are not energy effective. Birds are, but it's not they're not as simple to build in engineering terms. Good thing we're building planes, at least planes.
Okay, I don't have much to say to that, Timothy. We've had birds flight analogy, we've had food analogies here today. Yeah, I'm pretty happy overall. I guess just moving forward, we'll have another office hours next week. we're actually gonna. Oh no, we're not there yet, but we're coming up on Good Friday. So one week we're gonna have office hours on a Thursday coming up here, and I'm not gonna get into it today, but some really interesting things I hope to share around some growth marketing, some growth strategies, and I don't like the term growth hacking, but some really interesting things that we're exploring now and we'll be implementing and documenting publicly, and continuing to build the value of Speak and having wonderful conversations like that where we can really dig in and understand what people need and how we can help and provide true value. So that's an honor again. Thank you everyone who joined us. Appreciate this very much, guys. Office Hours 9.
Office Hours 9. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Have a good weekend.